Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sundays at Summit Health. I hope it's been a good weekend for you. Excuse me. And that you all had fun, got some rest, and maybe watched a little bit of the CrossFit games. I'm not completely through it, but I'm still watching the events, and it's just so fun to see these athletes doing what they love and how incredibly strong they are and fit they are. And something specifically that I love about this time of year and watching the CrossFit games is that so many of us can relate to a lot of those workouts that they're doing. Like, we know what 30 calories on an assault bike feels like, and we know what a rope climb or picking up something heavy feels like. And it's just so fun to be able to watch how well they can do all those things, and for us to be able to feel like, I can do maybe not that heavy or that fast, but I can do the same thing that these people are doing. And that's a pretty empowering thing. So I hope you've been enjoying them. If you haven't watched any at all, I would encourage you to go back and watch a couple events. I certainly enjoyed watching them. But anyway, today we are talking not about the CrossFit Games. We're going to talk a little bit about alcohol. We get this question a lot when people are starting, especially if they're trying to lose weight. They'll ask if they should give up drinking or take a break from drinking for a little bit. And so today we're going to talk about what are some of the trade offs of drinking, what are some guidelines to be following, whether you're losing weight or just trying to be healthier overall. Um, and yeah, just some of the health problems that can come from drinking and things like that. But yeah, we'll just jump right in. So, um, for most of the people who are asking this question, they're asking not because they're drinking too much or that they have any kind of problem, but because they understand that it can be hard to drink alcohol and lose weight. And so, even if it's something that you don't feel like is necessarily too much in your life, for a lot of us, it just seems to show up. Whether that's a beer at the end of your workday, or maybe on Friday you get a little fancy and you go for a gin and tonic. If you're celebrating something, you grab the champagne. If you're sulking over something, you grab the wine. Any kind of social gathering, all of these things, it adds up really quickly, and it's still very easy to justify it. And so we eat clean, we work out, we're receiving nutrition coaching. So we know we're improving and we're getting better. And so this feels very easy to justify because we know we're doing everything else correctly. That sometimes drinking, especially because it's such a social and accepted part of your day, it just seems really easy to justify it. But it adds up really quickly. So, first, when we get to this topic, especially in a coaching relationship, the first thing that I would want to know as your coach is, what is the reason that you're drinking? Are you doing okay, or is it, and you're just kind of enjoying it socially or whatever? Um, or are you using it to deal with some emotional things? That is going to be a really big starting point for me as a coach. So, are you genuinely drinking because you enjoy the drink for the reasons that will benefit you? And I will get back to that. Or are you using it to mask what you really need to be working on? Are you saying red wine has a lot of antioxidants, so it's good for me, it's a healthy food? That's not the reason. There's not enough antioxidants to really make it be this like health improvement for you, I guess. It's definitely not a healthy food, even if it has a couple of healthy things in it. You can put broccoli on a pizza that's loaded with carbs and fats, way more than we would normally eat in one sitting. That doesn't make the pizza healthy just because there's broccoli on it. So, if you want to be fit and healthy and functional, where does alcohol fit into this? Are we using it as something we enjoy, or is it to mask something else that we're working on? There's a lot of research published right now trying to trick you and trying to bamboozle you into making drinking look healthier than it is, which is honestly mind blowing to me. And I won't go too deeply into that unless you're genuinely curious. Let me know, and I would love to explain it further. But if you see a study that has health benefits from drinking, definitely reach out and we can talk a little bit more about that. But if you are willing to believe me that drinking alcohol does not benefit your health, then continue to listen and we can talk about some of the risks and some of the things involved. And if you want to hear more about what those articles are saying and what they're not saying, I would love to speak with you. So, what we really want to do as coaches is we want people to understand their alcohol consumption. We're not here to tell you that you should be drinking more or drinking less or stop drinking. That's not really our role, other than we want to help you understand. So, for women, and this is from the CDC, this is not numbers I made up. Moderate drinking for women is up to 7 drinks a week with no more than 3 in one day. For men, it's 14 drinks in 1 week with no more than 4 per day, which sounds like a lot, but that's what the research says. And when they say one drink, they're talking a 12-ounce beer, a 5-ounce pour of wine, or 1.5 ounces of liquor. You might not consider yourself a binge drinker or a heavy drinker, which is defined by having 4 to 5. Binge drinking is 4 to 5 drinks in less than 2 hours. That is technically binge drinking. And even if you don't consider yourself a heavy drinker or a binge drinker, most people aren't measuring their intake or adjusting for higher percentage beers. I went on a brewery tour this weekend and they had beers that were up to 10%. So if a normal beer is about 5% alcohol by volume, and if your beer is heavier than that, like most people aren't doing that kind of math, and we don't expect them to. My point is just that it's really easy to slip into that heavy drinking side and not even realize it. And being in that heavy drinking range is where we start to see a lot of problems. If you're drinking in that moderate range or under, if you have less than 7 drinks a week and less than 3 in one day for a woman, 14 and 4 for guys, if you're at that or under that, you're not going to experience that many issues when it comes to drinking and weight loss. But if if the weekend comes and you're drinking 2 nights back to back, a little bit more than you were expecting to, then that's where we start seeing a lot more issues that are popping up. Not necessarily as a direct result of alcohol, but maybe as like a side effect. Some of these problems are worse if you have a history of alcoholism in your family. Also, some of these, such as like stalled weight loss, are less due to actual alcohol consumption and more due to the fact that we start getting really munchy when we drink. So, moderate drinking can even lead to more accidents or deaths because of the classic hold my beer and watch this kind of thing. So, even moderate drinking definitely is not adding to our health and does put us at risk for a couple extra things, but for the most part, a lot of the more serious issues are when we get to that heavy drinking side. Without going too far into the chemical description of what alcohol is, the bottom line is alcohol is a form of poison. And I don't mean that to sound like horrible, but our bodies don't tolerate it in the state that it's in. So your body actually changes the alcohol once it gets into your system. Your body changes the alcohol into something else that is safe for our body to digest. When our body's having to do that, it can't work on the other toxins that cause cell damage, and thus a lot of health problems begin. Let me say that again. Alcohol, as you consume it, is toxic to your body, which means that your liver, your kidneys, your whole system is having to do a lot of work and basically do some chemistry in your body to change alcohol into a substance that you can digest. And while it's doing that, it's not weeding out a lot of the other toxins that it is doing for us all the time. So when we eat food, we drink whatever we're drinking, and whenever we consume anything, our body is constantly purifying things and getting rid of toxins and things we don't need so that we can use the things that we do. When we drink alcohol, our body has less availability to get rid of those other toxins. So, the simple way of looking at it is one, our bodies need to change alcohol in order to tolerate it. Two, your ability to metabolize it depends on a lot of things like genetics and age, body size, even your ethnicity can have something to do with this. So, the amount that you drink and the amount of time you drink it in matter a lot when it comes to how alcohol is going to affect your weight loss. What's the sweet spot? Experts' best guess, and it really is a guess, is to stay within this moderate range or lower and really avoiding the heavy range. And what we need to accept is that a lot of times, like, we're going to drink. It's not always realistic to expect ourselves to completely go off alcohol while we're trying to get healthy or trying to lose weight. But if we can stay in that moderate range, we can still enjoy a beer with our friends. But what we really want to do is look at what is my reason for drinking. Things that are sometimes associated with alcohol are also associated with longevity. Things like pleasure and leisure and creativity and social connection. A lot of those things are easier or come more naturally with some alcohol, and that's okay because those things ultimately lead to a longer life. But if we can't find those things outside of drinking, that may not be a good reason to be drinking. If if drinking is adding pleasure or value to your life in those ways, then enjoy it and enjoy it safely. If you're drinking more because of stress or because it's a habit or because you think you'll make someone else uncomfortable if you don't, um, these things are not adding value. Those types of things don't make you live longer. Worrying about if someone else is comfortable or drinking because it's 5 o'clock. That's the kind of stuff that's not necessarily adding value to our life. And those would be the scenarios where we really need to think through why we're drinking. It's honestly best also to forget about the potential benefits because there are a lot of ways to, some of the benefits that have been associated to alcohol consumption are reduced risk of heart disease, and some other things like that. That's also not really a good enough reason to drink alcohol because we have so many other ways of doing that. If we want to prevent cardiovascular disease, we eat clean, we exercise, we don't smoke. Wine doesn't really contribute to that list. So, drinking versus not drinking doesn't necessarily make you healthy or unhealthy. It's just a lot more about trade offs. Alcohol is only one of many factors that determine your health and performance, but a yes or a no to alcohol might mean a yes or no to something else. We've talked about this trade off before. So if you say, yes, I want six pack abs, you might have to say no to a few drinks at the bar. That just might be how it has to be. If you say yes to happy hour on Friday night, then you might have to say no to your Saturday morning workout. You might not be feeling the greatest. You might need a little bit more sleep than you normally do. It's okay to say yes to happy hour. Just understand that there might be a trade off Saturday morning. We bring it back to the continuum as we often do with other habits. If you're not wanting to decrease your intake, um, then that's okay. And your coaches are not necessarily going to fight you on that. But if decreasing your alcohol intake is just something that you don't think is necessary or is not in the cards for you right now, what I would really encourage you to do is drink more slowly and more mindfully. So, some ways to go about that. One, observe your drinking habits. Do you drink more or less than you thought? Maybe this would be a good time to write down, when the doctor asks how many drinks you have a week, whatever number you would say there, take a moment and actually count your drinks in a week and see if it's more or less than you thought. Um, is your drinking mindful, or is it more rushed and mindless? This would be the difference between sipping on a beer that you really enjoy versus shotgunning a beer. Do you notice any themes or patterns? Like, do you drink more heavily when the work week ends? Or is alcohol adding more enjoyment or more stress to your life? When you drink, are you inviting maybe some unwelcome visitors into your life, such as binge eating, eating foods you wouldn't normally eat, getting less sleep than you normally would, or even reaching out to someone who's toxic to you? Do those things tend to happen more easily when you're drinking? Just paying attention to some of these things. Next, noticing how the alcohol actually affects your body. Do you feel good? And that's while drinking, but also after. Do you feel good when you stop? How is your recovery? If you wear a wearable device like a Whoop or an Apple Watch or something like that, what does it say about your recovery the next day? Do you get hungover and have a headache or a stomach ache? Do those extra calories affect a goal that you're working toward? Because realistically, alcohol is like consuming calories that have nothing in them, nothing that adds value the way that our normal macros do. Alcohol is kind of its own macro, but it's not necessarily a nutrient. So, adding those extra calories in, if you're having a hard time sticking to your calorie limit anyway, this might be something that's making it more difficult for you. And then the last one would just be, how does your blood work look when you get that done at the annual physical? Is anything kind of popping out that might be related to your drinking? Three, just getting a little bit existential. I probably go down this rabbit hole the most out of the coaches here, but I want to know how your habits, drinking or otherwise, affect your thoughts and your behaviors and your perspectives, your attitude towards things. When you're drinking, do you feel in control of your drinking, or do you feel a little less in control of your decisions? Do you like who you are when you're drinking? Do others like who you are when you're drinking? And what would it be like? This is a fun exercise, actually, kind of visualizing what would my life be like if I didn't drink alcohol for a week. What would be different? Going out for happy hour with your coworkers and you order a water, what would they say? After soaking it all in and thinking through those things, consider what you're saying yes to and no to currently around your alcohol habits, and then what you are willing to say yes or no to, and then what you're prepared to say yes or no to. And willing and prepared, those two might sound like the same thing. However, if you are willing to go down to 3 drinks a day, or never more than 3 drinks a day, never more than 7 in a week, and you're hosting a Super Bowl party this weekend, you really need to decide, like, is that a good, am I prepared to do that this weekend? Or am I just willing and I need to work with my coach to prepare myself to make a transition? Because this is a very hard habit to break. Like we said, it's around us all the time. We have a lot of opportunities to do it, and it's very easily justifiable. So it can be a little bit tough to make these transitions. If you're willing to do it, though, let us coaches help you prepare for it. Fifth, take a couple action steps. So all the first 4 steps up to here were fairly thoughtful, not necessarily asking you to change anything, more just asking you to pay attention to different dynamics that are going on around your drinking. This one is more action oriented. So just taking one more step. If you normally crack a beer open at 5 o'clock, wait until 5:15 and see if you still want it. If you do, go for it. If you're like, actually, I feel kind of relaxed already because my work day is over, I don't necessarily need that beer, then maybe pass on it. Or if you and your friend normally go grab a drink every Wednesday after work, see if they would be willing to switch that after work beer to a walk and just changing your patterns a little bit. Wherever you normally go, try and see if you can switch up the pattern. Savor your drink when you do decide to indulge. Really savor it and learn how to taste it properly. You can swap quantity for quality, which is actually a cool thing to do because you end up drinking a little bit less and you can invest in good alcohol when you do have it rather than just crushing some Coors Lights. Like, try a different kind of beer and see if you like it. Learn how to taste it the right way and spend money on good alcohol when you do want to have it. And lastly, I just wanted to throw this in here as well. If you are worried about how your drinking is affecting your health, whether that's slipping into more problematic drinking or you're just unsure if your drinking is causing any kind of health problems, talk to your coach, but more importantly, talk to your doctor. Let them run some blood work. Let them tell you about the different correlations that they've seen with certain health problems and drinking, and they would be a great resource for you. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Would love to expand on any of this. Before moving to Colorado, I actually worked in a treatment center for Mayo Clinic. So I've got lots of experience working around alcohol and this type of issue. But even if it's not a problem drinking thing and you just have some more questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend and go crush the week.